Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thank you. And so we come to the 10-minute rule motion. Mr. Derek Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I beg to move that the leave be given to bring in a bill to transfer the power to designate sites of special scientific interest from Natural England to the Secretary of State, to make provision about the exercise of that power by the Secretary of State and for connected purposes. And I'm conscious, Madam Deputy Speaker, that I stand in the way of legislation where £29 million will be getting 29 million people will be getting an extra tax cut. So I won't detain the House any longer than I am so far. Sites of special scientific interest are the most precious natural landscapes in this country, vital to our biodiversity. Their importance has long been recognised, long before the word biodiversity was coined. For 75 years, additional protection has been given to areas that are of special interest by reason of their flora, fauna, geological or physiographical features. In 1981, the current system of notification was put in place by the Wildlife and Countryside Act. This law, as amended, gave a decision to designate an area as a SSSI to Natural England, and Natural England exists to ensure that the natural environment is conserved, enhanced and managed for the benefit of present and future generations. But this important aim, is now at the heart of government decision-making. In fact, the Environment Act 2021 goes even further. The government as a whole must have regard to environmental principles, not just conserving or even just enhancing the natural environment, but actually restoring nature. That being so, there is no reason for decisions like the notification of SSSIs to be outsourced any longer. No protections would be lost if this power were transferred to the Secretary of State, which is why I'm bringing in this bill. And Madam Deputy Speaker, I hope that the DEFRA Minister will take note that this bill is supported by a former DEFRA Secretary of State, 2 former DEFRA Ministers, the Chair of the Environment Audit Select Committee, the Chair of the Environment, Food, Rural Affairs Select Committee, and several other MPs who have demonstrated during our time in this place a support and understanding of our natural environment and how this can be enhanced in harmony with producing the food the nation needs. Should the government adopt this bill, and I hope it does, there will still be a place for Natural England, identifying sites for designation and collating the data and scientific evidence. But it will be the Environment Secretary to interrogate this evidence and decide if Natural England is correct in their assessment. At the moment, Natural England is marking their own homework, and the experience of farmers in my constituency is that they could do better. Last year, 3,044 hectares of West Penwith were confirmed as a site of special scientific interest. It was no surprise that Penwith Moors and Downs were identified as a candidate for notification. It is the most beautiful part of the world. I happen to live right on the edge. And its unique heathland provides habitat for many rare species, birds like the Dartford warbler, which has a breeding population, invertebrates such as the rare Perkins mining bee and tormented nomad bee, or vascular plants such as the coral necklace. It is also a man-made landscape with a long history of agriculture and livestock grazing, many of the 4,000-year-old field systems still being used for their original purpose. The farmers on the land, Madam Deputy Speaker, know that the richness of Penwith Moors was a result of their careful management of the land for many years, over multiple generations, and so were shocked by the high-handed way in which Natural England approached the designation. In October 2022, SSSI notification packs landed on the doormats of landowners and farmers, and contrary to our expectation, close to 1,000 acres of clean land, pastures, paddocks and land on which crops or even animal feed could be grown was included. The notification documents did not include clear evidence or reason why their clean land had been included. It became very clear that Natural England's case relied on scientific evidence that was not much more than desktop studies and old survey data. To take an example, after Natural England's hearing last year, which I attended, their experts admitted they did not have evidence to include the 700+ acres of good pasture farmland. By this time, more than 200 acres had been successfully challenged by landowners and removed from the SSSI. And the only reason for including clean land was the potential for pollution. Probably even less clean land would have been included if all landowners had had the funds to mount the legal challenge. The theory was that excess nitrate in surface water would reach the Valley Mires to the detriment of the special flora and fauna. This was highlighted by FarmScoper, a free desktop tool that offers generic assessment, but with a disclaimer that its results should be checked by on-site testing. This testing was not carried out prior to notification, and as far as I am aware, these checks are yet to be carried out. Likewise, bird surveys were undertaken for a year, not the 3 to 5 years specified by Natural England's own guidance, and invertebrate surveys relied on a single year rather than the 3 years it should have been. Natural England could easily have engaged constructively with farmers and landowners to establish a more robust scientific case for designating accurately any area that justifies such a significant level of protection. They did not. Even at the public hearing in June last year, the Chair of Natural England, their legal team, the senior officials refused to accept responsibility or ownership of these failures and pressed ahead with notification. They are not accountable to farmers, to members of government or to members of this House. Why does this matter? Because now, following confirmation of the SSSI, farmers are subject to the same Natural England staff dictating how they operate their farms. That includes its demanding farmers apply for consent to milk cows or keep livestock, risking the potential for farming business to become unsustainable, impacting the rural economy and food security, while delivering no meaningful benefit to the environment. Farmers are already selling their businesses. I'll give just one example of a farm in my constituency. This farm has 2 fields that has a mixture of acid pasture, ferns and heather, and grassland, which Natural England included in the SSSI with the rest of the farmland, which was already in the Natural England's high-level stewardship scheme. The farmers objected to the inclusion of the 2 fields, which were used for winter feeding of yearling red ruby Devon heifers. As far as Natural England was concerned, there was no boundary between the rough-land and the main grass pasture, so it was for the SSSI and hence under restriction. The farmer naturally decided not to squander money on fence, but to reduce stocking levels. What is shocking is not that the farm is losing out from unjust restrictions, not just that the farm is losing out, but I shall talk about the economic benefits later, but these restrictions will do the reverse of what is intended. Reduced grazing on the moorland will make way for invasive species like brambles and rhododendrons to take over, and this will act to reduce biodiversity unless the state is prepared to spend large sums of money on eradication. My bill will allow the Environment Secretary to interrogate the science and scrutinise Natural England decisions. My experience from engaging with the department is that it fully understands the concerns that I have raised about the viability of farms if good farming land is included without assessing its risk to the rough land. It is Natural England that seems to have ridden roughshod across farmers' countryside management and their understanding of how to care for their natural environment. This is not the only part of England where serious tensions exist between Natural England and organisations and individuals who have devoted their lives to the careful stewardship of the countryside. My bill will also give the Secretary of State the power to consider other factors in designation, factors which Natural England cannot. Last year, I spoke in an adjournment debate about the way in which Natural England did not consider and could not consider the social, cultural and economic implications of notification. As I've stated, Natural England was not concerned about the viability of these farms. It was not concerned with the rural properties off the grid, of whom boreholes are the only source of water. Boreholes in SSSIs can only be used with Natural England's consent. The Minister's predecessor in the department agreed, saying it is high time that we looked at how these protections impact the economy and the social and cultural side of farming, and the government will be doing just that. And if we are to truly halt the decline of nature, we need our farmers to do all they can for environmental stewardship. It is indeed high time, and my bill will give the Environment Secretary the power to do so. If our farmers are to do all they can for environmental stewardship, they need a department which will support them. They need a department which is responsible for SSSIs and the funding to support landscape recovery, a department which can strike harmony between the public goods of conservation and food production, and the need to ensure farms are viable and the rural economy thrives. The notification of a SSSI impacts the environment, food and rural affairs. It should therefore, Madam Deputy Speaker, be the responsibility of DEFRA to make that decision.
Thank you. The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As mayors that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Derek Thomas, Dr. Trey's Coffee, Trudy Harrison, Philip Dunn, Sir Robert Goodwill, Steve Double, Selene Saxby, Sir Bill Wiggin, Greg Smith, Simon Jupp, Maggie Throop, Mark Menzies.
Derek Thomas.
Sites of Special Scientific Interest Designation Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday, 26th of April.
Friday the 26th of